Hello YouTube, 잘 지내요? With the new year 2024 coming in, I figured I wanted to share a video with you guys going over all the new rules, or specifically the slight visa changes that could be happening in Korea. Now, I know that we're not going out and traveling, but I think this video might be very useful, especially considering that Korea has been seeing a large influx of tourists and more people coming into Korea. Now, many of these people might just be coming for visiting, but you never know, there might be more people interested in trying to live in Korea or work in Korea, study, whatever the case is. So I figured I would go over some slight changes in some of the visas, or go over some additional visas that might fit for your situation, or something that you could look into other than the E2 visa, teaching visa, basically. So let's go ahead and check those out. Right, so 2024, the government's trying to do things for foreigners, trying to include more people coming in due to, unfortunately, to declining birth rates. So the government's trying to combat this by having more foreigners take some of those jobs. Now, this is a good thing, but also it is kind of a downside. Some people criticize the government for, not doing things for their own citizens more and things like that. Whatever the case is, we're not going to talk about that. We are just going to focus on some of the visas. Now, the first visa is the D10 visa that we're going to talk about. The D10 visa is the unemployment visa. Now, this visa is good for a couple different reasons. One is that if you are a student in Korea and you can't get a job right away, you're having a hard time, and you're a little worried because maybe your school's about to end, you're about to graduate, you can apply to the D10 visa and you'll get at least 6 months of able to stay. Now, before, the Korean government, I think, only allowed you to renew this maybe one time or up to a year. But now the current change is that you can change this and stay up to 3 years, 2 or 3 years, with the D10 visa. I think it is something you have to renew every 6 months. That I'm a little unsure of, but it is something that will last an initial 6 months, and you can renew and stay up to 2 or 3 years to kind of help facilitate people trying to get jobs and all of that. You do have to pay for your own insurance during this time, which I think you can find rates from around 80 to 100,000 won a month for that private insurance. But other than that, and you do have to say that you're living somewhere. You can't just be homeless on the D10 visa. So you do have to say that you're living somewhere, and you do have to pay for the insurance. But other than that, D10 visa allows you to stay in the country, free for worry for a little bit. Now, again, this can be good if you're just coming into the country. Maybe you're on the tourist visa. I don't know if you can change the tourist visa to a D10 visa. You might have to change for something else, but that I'm a little unsure of. However, the D10 there is there for people who are unsure of what job they want to do, where they're going to go, but still want to remain in Korea and try and figure it out. That D10 visa is there for you guys. Now, the other visa I want to talk about, which is related to the students I talked about, D2 and D4. These are the student visas that you can apply for to then study in Korea. Now, we'll talk a little bit about those a little bit later, because I want to focus and change to a different visa. There is the E8 visa. Now, this is a kind of interesting one. This is a seasonal visa for about 8 months, and specifically fisheries and agriculture section of Korea. So I don't know what situation this fits for many people coming to work in Korea, but if you are just trying to live in Korea, just trying to make some money, and if you are, I guess, passionate about agriculture or fisheries, I don't know what kind of jobs are involved with fisheries, you can get a E8 visa. Will allow you to stay here for 8 months. The government is kind of in control of that up to a certain degree. And by that I mean making sure companies will pay you an adequate amount of money and a minimum of 2 days a month of rest, I think is what they said. So I think you'll be working pretty hard during those 8 months, but it might be a good way to make some money, live in a different country, and then, I don't know, work from there and try to change to another visa, whatever the case is. So there is the E8 seasonal visa for those of you who want to try and get some kind of job in another country. Now, this visa that I'm about to talk about, it doesn't have a name. other than it's the digital nomad visa or work from home visa. This is a really cool one. Fortunately, it only applies to a select few amount of people of the richer category, but it is a very cool visa. If you're working at a top company and you're making some good amount of money, but you don't want to go work there, you want to work in another country and still do your job, that's what the digital nomad visa is. It's a staycation visa, basically. So this visa that Korea is trying to implement, because other countries have done it, allows you to do your job, but while living in another country. So there are a couple factors for this. You need to at least make close to 100 million won in income. You have to have at least 1 year experience in your job. And you have to also pay for your own insurance, which I think is probably through the country you're living in. That is also an equivalent of up to 100 million won. Now, the government says this because they want you to have a safety net in case something goes wrong. I think that's a bit much, but you know, what can we do? Now, the 100 million making in income is very interesting because it's about, I think it's about double than what Korea's GDP is. So it's quite a lot of money you got to be making just to be able to do the staycation. But the visa lasts for a year and it is for renewal. So you could potentially do a staycation for 2 years. And I think you can extend it to your immediate family. So if you have kids, a wife or whatever, I think you can also move them with you, and you can be living in Korea while still doing your job. And I think that is so cool. I think that's a really cool thing. I know other countries are doing it, so it's not just Korea. But if I had the chance and if I was making that money in another country, I would absolutely jump on that. Of course, I think you'd have to talk to your company first if they're going to even allow you to leave to do that. But I mean, if you're still doing work, I don't see why they wouldn't. Now then, the last visa I wanted to talk about, or last new visa that I wanted to share with you guys, is the E7 visa, or E7-1, 2, 3, and 4. Now this goes along with the D2 and D4 I explained earlier. The E7 visa is kind of more of the official working visa. So you can get the professional job, semi-professional job, skill job, or trade-based job with this visa. That meaning, you know, working in digital marketing, working as a chef, working in manufacturing or construction, etc., those kind of jobs. And you can apply for those visas if you have that experience back home. So you could actually move to Korea, try to apply for that visa if you have one of those jobs already, or if you're looking to apply into that job from graduating university in America or another country, you can apply for an E7 visa based off of that as well. Because the Korean government is looking to get more foreign workers to fill in certain jobs. So again, keep in mind that all visa applications could potentially be rejected on a number of different reasons. But most likely, if you have the requirements, they will accept it. There are also a couple different exceptions to get the E7 visa. To get the E7 visa, naturally, you do have to have some experience in your job. You have to have a master's degree. So they said like 5 years experience in your job plus a master's degree. That seems like a lot. You could also have a bachelor's degree plus 1 year experience, but I'm not sure if the plus 1 year experience is added on top of the 5 year experience. So a total of 6 year experience plus bachelor's degree. That I was a little confused on, but either way, you do need the experience to be able to apply for that visa. Now, the special exceptions being if you are graduated from a universally accepted college, like I guess Stanford or something, or if you're working already at a top S&P 500 company, if you graduated from a university in Korea. So I think that's the best option for most people, is to come to Korea, get that D2, D4 visa, go to school in Korea, get your bachelor's degree, to get your master's degree, and then get to that E7. Now there's two different ways you can do it. You can go D2, D4 to D10 to E7, or D2 to E7, D2/D4 to E7, and then eventually changing to F2 as well if you really wanted to. So F2 being the kind of semi-permanent residency visa, which is something I'm trying to get, or the F6 visa, which is for marriage. So those are different types of visas that you guys can get. If you guys are just touring, I know that there's been some confusion with the KETA stuff going on, but if you're an American citizen, you don't need that KETA stuff. You're allowed to come to Korea for 90 days without any hassle. In fact, many countries are able to come to Korea without much hassle, except for what I saw, a majority of Africa, which was really weird. But yeah, almost a good portion of countries can come to Korea without too much hassle, and you don't need that KETA stuff. I only know for American citizens. I don't know about other countries, but yeah, you don't need that KETA stuff. You can just travel to Korea as long as your passport is valid. Speaking of passport, I did see a mention of residents that they try to extend the amount of time that people who are in Korea past the expiration of their passport date can still stay in Korea for up to, I think, a year. I'm not sure how that process works, but I think the Korean government is doing this because there might be some people who end up stuck for whatever reason because they couldn't renew their passport or whatever happened. So they're not just kicking people out if your passport expired, which is kind of nice. I do like that, but I'm not too sure what the details are involved with that. I just keep my passport updated just because I think it's something you should do. But in case something happens and you aren't able to update your passport, the Korean government isn't going to kick you out right away. So that's something very nice. Now, again, as I mentioned before, I'm on an E2 visa. That's the teaching English visa. It's good, but it does limit you in a lot of ways. So I don't always recommend people to just come in for teaching English. It's a great foot in the door, and I think it's probably the easiest visa to apply for, especially if you don't have any of the qualifications for the other visas, as I explained before. But another option would be the D2, D4 visa. That might be a really great way to get in, and especially if you're kind of already studying anyways, or you're planning to go to college, why not try to do it in another country? I know that can have its hardships as well. So I think D2, E2 are great as a stepping stone, but eventually try to do things much earlier and switch to another visa, and you'll have a much easier time. So that's it for the new changes. Essentially, the slight changes were the staycation visa and the D10 visa. Those were the big changes for visas, but everything else, and the E8 visa as well, those were all kind of previously there. But I wanted to kind of do an updated video for you guys. If you're planning to work and live in Korea, just know that E2 isn't the only way to do this. And I know that looking up information can be really confusing online when you're trying to figure out if you're trying to move here. There's so much information. There's so many things like, oh, do I need this? Do I need that? Do I need this? For most visa applications, the typical things you need: passport, photos, 2 or 3 of those, the application forms themselves, which you can usually download on the Corvia website, I believe, and some of the outside documents that you may or may not need, including FBI checks, background checks, that kind of stuff, as well as your college degrees if you are not doing the D2, D4 visa. So a couple different things, basic things that you'll need. But like I said earlier, I wanted to just provide some additional information for those of you who are, I don't know, like I said, maybe planning to come to Korea. I hope more and more people come to Korea. That does help influence the government in some ways for preparing for that and dealing with more foreigners, kind of coming up with new laws and different rules for them, hopefully better ones, essentially. So that's really cool. And if you're just touring, that's also great. Like I said, if you're a US citizen, you have 90 days to tour the country, and I think you can extend that technically by leaving the country and coming back, but 90 days is, I think, a pretty good time. Oh, but if you are from Canada, I think it's 6 months. I thought that was really strange. Only Canada gets 6 months, which is, I guess, kind of cool. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it was a lot of information. I just kind of wanted to go over that today. Next time is going to be Lunar New Year, so we're going to have a special video for that. So look forward to that. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to message, comment, all that stuff. I'm happy to answer questions. I don't know everything myself personally. These are just stuff I look up and try to pay attention to because I also want to potentially get away from the E2 visa. So we're all in this together. Please talk to me if you have any questions, or if you're just touring, Also, let me know if you guys come to Korea. Love to hear it. All right, YouTube. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again.